at Seattle, at Kansas City, at Chicago, at the Chargers, and against Philadelphia. What do you think of this assessment?
I think it's I tend to think they're probably a 10-win team. The big wild card to me is how much better does this offense look, if indeed it is better. But the assumption is it's going to be a lot better under Stefanski and Kubiak and the play action and all that we talked about earlier. I tend to think that they're a 10-win team. When I look at the losses that they have, the Vikings taking, one of them is at Seattle. I'm not sure that Seattle is quite the team that they were, used to seeing in years past. Philadelphia, losing to them at home, I think that's one that the Vikings could steal away from the projected losses. So if they can get one of those, then all of a sudden you are a 10-win team. You should be in the playoffs, and then you just see what happens at that point. But, a lot of it, we've talked about it all offseason. A lot of it's going to depend on the offensive line and the improvement of the offense in general.
I will say the schedule in this context looks pretty tough. The Giants might not be very good. Washington might not be very good. Oakland might not be very good. But really, I think the fact that I expect the Packers to be pretty good. I expect the Bears to be very good. I'm not sure what Detroit will be at all. It looks like a tough schedule. It looks like getting to 9 victories will be a challenge.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you look at some of the away games. At Kansas City is going to be a brutal game. At Chicago is going to be tough. At the Chargers is going to be tough too. I don't know if you saw Kevin Seifert's article, ESPN, talking about the mathematicians that are getting involved in the schedule making, try to make it a little more even as far as making sure you don't have 3 straight road games or, just things that can be tough on a team during a season. So I'm going to be really curious to see when the schedule comes out Wednesday night. We're doing the podcast Wednesday morning, how that shakes out. Are there some really tough stretches? And generally there are, 2, 3, 4 game stretches where you go, man, that if they can get through that thing at 500, then they should be a playoff team. We saw it last year, and they didn't do as well as we thought. And, really last year I was surprised by how much the offense struggled after the first, say, 5 games compared to, I thought it was going to be a tough first month of the season with a new offense, and they looked really good early and then tailed off late. So you just never know how things are going to play out. But you're right. I do think there are a lot of tough teams and tough road trips on this schedule.
Next week, we'll talk more about the draft. We'll get back to talking about the offensive line. We'll talk about the release schedule. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to our sponsors. We'll talk to you soon.